last 2 seconds here. We're out live, but 1 second. There we go. Good evening, Warriors. Good evening, Warriors, and welcome into another edition of the R&R Sports Report. I am your host, as always, Randy Isbell, and with me, Robert Hagan. For now, Robert's here for now. How's it going, Robert?
What do you mean? What do you mean for now?
I have been sitting across this desk for the last hour from you, and I can already tell you are distracted as all get out. So we will see how this works.
I'm trying to channel my inner, as everybody can see here, channel my inner Lamar tonight.
Well, listen, everyone listening on the radio station 88.9, they cannot see Raven is decked out in his Ravens gear. It is the first time ever that we are live during an NFL game, and of course it has to be his Baltimore Ravens and the Dallas Cowboys. Currently 6:30 to go in the second quarter. Baltimore leading 14-10, so we have Happy Robert going on. This is a very special edition of the R&R Sports Report. This is our 10th edition of this thing. We have live NFL football to talk about, and it is your team. You know, we've gotten through Thanksgiving. Christmas is coming up really fast. So hopefully you are joining us, and wherever it is, whether it's 88.9 FM, whether it's klcz.com on that app, whether it's the R&R Sports Report on our Facebook page or R&R Sports Report on YouTube. We're trying to branch out as much as we can, and we appreciate it wherever you're able to join us. And again, if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube live, you can comment and give Robert a lot of crap about his team. I will say that we have obviously in the studio, we don't have a TV, so we're streaming the game. So it is on a slight delay, so be wary. We'll see if it's a bigger delay than the delay we get on the comments if we start worrying about spoilers or not, I guess, right?
Yeah, no kidding. Hey, but you know, you and I talked about, in all seriousness, it's 3rd and 7 right now. You know, this is our 10th episode. And you and I have been talking about doing this show for a long time. Mm-hmm. And now, as I was walking into school today, all I could think about was double digits. We hit the double digits. I mean, what you and I have been talking about for 3 years finally is mm-hmm. starting to get into what we're hoping things would turn out to be. So
now I don't know how it works in the radio. Are we syndicated now? Have we got enough for syndicate? It's like 10 seasons, right? For TV?
I think
to become syndicated? Or is that 100 episodes? I forget. I don't know. Let's talk football, and let's talk NCAA. There, I forgot. I had my headphones muted, so I was really confused as why I was not hearing myself. Now I did. We're going to change up the way we talk about last week in football. Instead of just ranting and raving about different scores and everything, we want to take a different approach at this, and we're going to give you each of our 3 big takeaways from football. First college, and we'll do the NFL version, and we're hoping this changes this up a little bit and gets a little bit more discussion. So Robert, give me your first takeaway.
Oh, there was a lot of them, and it was hard to try to decipher which one I wanted to do as things have been going on and using that big C word and all that, and things getting changed around. But I think the big one for me was probably the game of the weekend, and that was on short notice. Mm-hmm. You know, on Thursday, they finally finalized the deal as BYU travels to Coastal Carolina and goes down plays and comes up 1 yard short. By far, the best game that I watched all weekend long.
Yeah, and it was, like you said, it was not even a game when we were on the station on Tuesday.
No, and what was crazy is, you know, BYU favored by 10, both ball Cubs undefeated, and Coastal Carolina said, "Come on, bring it, let's go," and they looked extremely well. You know, BYU was picked at the end of halftime, though. I'm a little upset about that, and what happened to Zach Wilson. Zach. You know, I understand the rule. The rule says as soon as there's an interception, you become a player. You're no longer protected by the quarterback thing. But, you know, I can see one time taking Wilson down to the ground with 2 guys, right. But then it's over and over, and they just keep doing it for, I think, 2 or 3 times.
And it
no
wasn't.
flags.
They weren't blocking him. They
Whoa.
were picking him up and throwing him to the ground.
As you can see,
ridiculous.
the word I used was mauled by two
Yes.
players, and he was. I mean, the first one I understand. Okay, let him get back up, and then you let him get up, and then you put him back down again. I mean, it's just crazy. But I think the big one though, and I'm wondering, and just looking at his stats, Zach Wilson, third best passer rating in the FBS. I think he's an NFL player, but I don't see him going until the end of the second, maybe the third round.
Yeah, he's going to be one of those, project quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I think.
Oh yeah.
Somebody that you're going to take a little bit later and can work with. But you know what? That worked for Tom Brady.
Oh yeah, by far, 100%. Yeah, I think he's got a smart head about him and what he does, and so I'm excited to see what he does.
The one thing that I took out of this game, I watched it too. I was really excited about this game. It was a lot of fun. As you said, it came down to the very last play. Can we make this a yearly thing now between these two just because of the nickname that they gave this game?
I forget what the nickname was.
It was Mormons versus Mullets.
Oh.
And they were selling T-shirts. It was fantastic. I think they had fun with it. Obviously, it got a little heated, as you said, at the end of the first half. Both teams were really, really ramped up for it because, I mean, I love the fact that Coastal Carolina is thinking BYU is this big, top-tier kind of game because obviously they're undefeated and they're that Power 5 team that they need to go out and beat.
Right.
So
for me, it's
for them. It was great that they stood up and did it.
Yeah, for me though, it's hats off to Coastal Carolina and bringing this ball game in quick and BYU after not playing against Liberty. Now that would have been a great game too, is seeing Liberty and Coastal Carolina. But hats off to both ball clubs in 2 days' notice and to play and game plan against each other and to be within one score and come up 1 yard short.
Yeah, your story. I allowed you to do the college football stuff first, and then you definitely took the main story. So I just went with the Big Four role. You have your 4 teams in the playoffs, and you wonder if any of them are going to slip. Obviously, we have championship games coming up, and a big one between Notre Dame and Clemson, which is going to be fantastic. We will talk more about Ohio State here shortly. But Alabama just crushes LSU. It wasn't even close. 55-17 was too close as far as how they were just running away with that game. Notre Dame beat Syracuse 45-21. Clemson beat up on Virginia Tech 45-10, even though Trevor Lawrence had a really bad game. He just wasn't needed. And then, of course, Ohio State destroys Michigan State 52-12. So your top 4, we'll talk about it later, are going to stagger forward because they just had no issue. What about your second story?
I think my second one is, and a couple will probably disagree, and I'm really hoping so and I'm hoping Pete Williams is listening because I really like Pete and he's a huge Oregon Ducks fan, but I am behind the idea of the Pac-12. Guys, you shouldn't have even started up. You should stay. I mean, I understand the eligibility part and the whole thing, but you guys are 2 months behind, 2.5 months behind most of the other teams. The Pac-12 is looking horrible this year. I mean, just if you put them all together, they look horrible. I mean, just in the games, Oregon loses this week. Oregon loses to Cal, which was a good game too. Cal played unbelievable. Washington loses, which shouldn't have lost to Stanford. Cougars. We won't even talk about the Cougars. I turned the station after the first quarter, and after seeing 4 touchdowns go to the same guy, they just didn't look good. And I think, and take nothing away from the student athlete because I'm all behind a student athlete. You're going to school, you're getting an extra year of eligibility. I'm all for that. And for those people saying, well, let them play even though they're getting an eligibility. What is it making your career look like by getting crushed in some of these teams that are losing? I just think it was not right. I mean, you get these ball clubs that have played already 9 full games and looking really good to now what happens with the Pac-12 that, all of them's got only 3 games right now.
I'll say this. I agree. I don't think that they should have played as late as they did to try to get 5 or 6 games in, hopefully. It's the same thing with the Big Ten. They're running into issues just as much. They got in a couple weeks early. But I'll tell you this: it's not the reason why the Pac-12 looks so bad. The Pac-12 looks so bad because they've been bad for the last few years. It would look even worse if they were playing ACC teams or SEC teams or Big 12 teams, but they're playing each other. And the Pac-12 for years has done a really good job of just messing up anyone's chances in this conference to make a playoff bid because a team that shouldn't beat a top-tier team does.
Mm-hmm.
And now you don't really have a top-tier team, so it's just a jumbled mess, and none of them are playing that great. I guess USC kind of.
For me, it's the expansion. When they went to 12, I think is when things went to heck in a handbasket.
Yeah.
That's what it was. So now you've got two divisions you play in. I think that's where it affects everything. So.
All right, my second story from the college football is an interesting one. Louisiana was taking on Appalachian State. If you didn't watch it, neither did I. But an interesting happened in this game. So the long snapper for Louisiana was having a rough day. Just a rough day.
Rough is an understatement.
I'm trying to be nice. He's a kid.
Yeah, he is.
He's listening, I'm sure. So it comes down to it. It's 24-19 Louisiana. They have the ball on their own 35-yard line with 1:46 to go. They decide we don't want the long snapper to snap it over our punter's head again and give App State a chance to recover it and have a chance for the touchdown. I get that. Their idea instead, I would have just went for it if you were going to go crazy. And then if you don't get it, they get it at the 35. But their idea is we're going to have the quarterback take the snap and run all the way into the end zone and then just take the safety. So now it's a 3-point game. App State still gets the ball. And after the free kick, App State starts at about the 50-yard line. So you only gained like 15, 17 yards total from where you would have went if you went for it on 4th and 2 and didn't get it. And now a field goal works. Then App State gets all the way down there, has a 30-yard field goal to try to tie this game up. Unfortunately, they missed the kick, so Louisiana survives. They're just, I call it the second dumbest coaching decision in football this week. We will get to the dumbest one later.
We'll get to that one.
I don't understand the thought process. As there's the first big play as Baltimore gets down the field. Still 14-10 inside the 2 minutes. All right, third story, Robert.
All right, third story for me, and a lot will happen over the next couple of days about this because as we were walking in, I said, "Oh, look at this," and it was another story about what happens. Does Ohio State deserve to be in the college football playoffs? Number 3. They're still number 3 is what they've been since pre-ranking.
Number 4 in the college.
Now, now in the playoffs they're number 4. Do they deserve to be in that top? I know there's a minimum. Big Ten's already said, okay, you've got a minimum. You have to play 6 games. Now that this game is canceled, do they deserve to be there? And I'm going to say no. And here's my reasonings behind no. And you look at the schedule, okay? Let's talk about the canceled games. Maryland, not ranked. Illinois, not ranked. Michigan gets canceled. They're falling off the face of the earth in Ann Arbor, and I think Harbaugh loses his job. But then you look at who they beat. They beat Rutgers. Rutgers is Rutgers, and then nothing there. Yes, they beat Michigan State, still another unranked team. Then they beat number 18 Penn State, who was 18.
Who was 18 at the time
when they played, and that was like
now they're like
2,
108.
Who's terrible.
Yes.
And the only one that you could really throw out there is Indiana, and Indiana has been consistent.
Yes.
I don't think there's enough here in who they played to say, okay, you can go in and play. They are a great team. You watch them play, they look good. I just don't think that who they played with gives them, how do I want to say it, enough of a push to get into the top 4.
Here's the thing. So right now, it is set where they would not be able to play the Big Ten championship game, which right now would be against Northwestern. The Big Ten has already said that they're going to look into it because obviously Ohio State's their only chance to get into this college playoff, so they're going to play favorites, I'm sure. Michigan has already said, listen, this last game's our fault. They should be able to play in the Big Ten championship game. This year has been crazier than even we expected. I personally think you set the rule, live by the rule.
Right.
Ohio State should not play. However, Ohio State will still get a chance to play during that weekend because Big Ten is like Pac-12, where every team will play during the conference championship weekend. So right now they would be set up to play number 16 Iowa. Now you add in another ranked team there, even though, yes, it's not a Big Ten championship, it's still a very good team. I still think they are one of the 4 best teams in college football and should be in there for the college championship. And we'll get into the rankings here in a second. But there's a big drop-off from those 4 to the next group.
Yes and no. I can see that. But I agree. They play quite well, but for them to only play 5 games for some of these teams that have played,
it's 2020.
Yeah, I mean that's the bad part.
It's not a perfect system like the NFL where it's all based off records. It's like you said, you brought up who they played, and obviously it's just based on what your conference was doing at that time. There was no non-conference games here, so it's really tough this year to figure out who really is the 4 best because we didn't have cross-contamination basically between the conferences. My last story before we get to those rankings is I just feel bad. Marshall had this big year, anniversary of the plane crash, and we talked about it when they had their big win on the anniversary. Rough day for Marshalls. They get shut out against Rice. Gets their first loss with Grant Wells throwing 5 interceptions. Just not the day that you want, especially undefeated. I mean, Marshall's still going to end up with a good bowl game, and they've had a fantastic season, but just not the way you want to go out the first time. But I will say, as my last note, there were only 8 postponements or cancellations this week. At this point, that's a positive, right?
Yeah, and 100% because we look at this week and there's only 3 so far. So they're doing things right. It's just it sucks taking so long to get there. So
college playoffs come out top 6 all the same: Alabama, Notre Dame, Clemson, Ohio State, Texas A&M, Florida. You can argue between Ohio State, Texas A&M, and Florida. I will just let you guys know Notre Dame does play Clemson in the ACC championship game. If that game is close, do both of those still get in? Irish?
I would. If Notre Dame blows Clemson away, I think they fall out, and either Texas A&M or Florida moves up. As much as I've been on Cincinnati all year long and how they play, but you throw in their schedule again, another canceled game for them. They don't get to play another game, so they're too short. I mean, with this whole COVID thing, does it make more sense now to go ahead and start thinking about expanding it to 8?
They should have done it before.
And you and I have talked about it.
Who would this be if we're down here talking about Iowa State, Cincinnati, Georgia, Miami, Coastal Carolina, who's 13th right now? But no, we're like, the top 4 are so far out ahead. I mean, yes, Ohio State's only played 5 games, but would a 1-loss Clemson team be dropped below Texas A&M or Florida? I don't think so. If they keep it close with Notre Dame, it's tough. The whole thing is really tough, and I agree with you. It should have been expanded. Baseball did it. The NFL had ideas just in case. Basketball went different. It's just ridiculous. All right, let's look at
basketball in the bubble.
Look at the next week here in college football, which, of course, I put on here Tuesday morning that Ohio State was a 29-point favorite against Michigan, and now that doesn't happen. This week is rough. The last few weeks have been really rough for college football as far as big marquee games, whether it's been between cancellations or just that weird variety in it, and we're not getting. We've already had those top tier teams playing each other early on in the schedules. I don't know if people set that up with their new revised schedules just to try to get viewership back. But I mean, you're looking at it in North Carolina and Miami, Wisconsin and Iowa, Washington and Oregon, and then you look at your one Pac-12 team that's still undefeated, USC. They take on UCLA. None of these jump out at me as games I want to watch this weekend.
And there's one that we didn't add on there, and I thought about it just a few minutes ago when I saw it, and I added it on to one that we think about for our game to watch for the weekend. But I don't know. Maybe it's just an emotional game every year at this time, but Army Navy is this weekend.
That's this week. Okay.
Army Navy. I mean,
I always
watch those guys run the ball all the time.
That's this week.
Yes.
That's always after the conference championship.
Yeah, it's this weekend.
I mean,
noon kickoff.
Okay, so that actually makes sense because everything's been pushed back and everything. So I'm always thinking Army Navy after all of the conference championship games. So yes, if I would have saw that, definitely, that's the game to watch for sure. Whether it's close or not, it's just the pageantry's not even probably going to be there as much this year either.
And then they're not playing where they normally play it either, so that's going to be a big thing too. Heisman watch.
Yes.
So I've been watching everything with the Heisman, and I think there's some people that are questionable whether or not they should be talked about. Do you think it's a two-person race between Mac Jones and Kyle Trask? So Mac being from Alabama and Kyle Trask from Florida. Do you think it's a two-man race?
I think so. I really, really do. Trevor Lawrence missed a couple games.
Right.
Did not look good this week.
Devonta Smith is unbelievable receiver
It's just
for Mac Jones.
Kyle Trask is the offense for Florida, and man, I mean the entire Alabama team looks so good, but Mac Jones is fantastic. I think I would lean Kyle Trask, but Mac Jones is probably winning this.
And I'm going to throw a name out there that you probably will not. I mean, you'll know who the name is, but I think he's very underrated. He probably should have some votes. I know it's not even in. If you go and look at the Heisman website where they talk about it, he's not even in the top 5. But is Kellen Mond underrated?
He's good too.
Dude, his passing yards are down a little bit this year. I mean, this year he's got 1,769 yards, 18 touchdowns, and only 2 picks. A completion rate of 61.1. He's rushed for almost 200 yards and 2 touchdowns, but they've missed 3 games.
Mm-hmm.
The three canceled games. And so I know that hurts the numbers because that stock, his rushing yards are way down because by this time last year he was right at almost 500 yards. He did have a few more picks last year, but is Kellen Mond underrated?
I mean, he's underrated just because it's tough to focus on him this year with everything going on. Would I put him maybe in my top 5 for Heisman? Sure. But he is nowhere near Mac Jones this year. You look at Mac Jones, yes, he's played more games. Has 3,113 yards. That's 4th in college football. It's 27 touchdowns and only 3 interceptions. With a QBR of 96.3, which is the best in college football as well. So
and Mond,
I just don't think he's up to that level.
Right.
I mean, you look at Trask. Let me load that up real quick because he has 38 touchdowns, most in college football, and only the 3 interceptions himself, and 3rd in the QBR with 92.7 with over 3,000 yards. So to me, it's those 2 by far.
And I think, and the only thing I'd say about Mond though is he's been there since he was a freshman. Mm-hmm. He's been starting since he was a freshman. So, do you think that kills his NFL stock? I think he's probably he's in that same category as a low 2, upper 3. I think for me, if I was drafting, I mean he's always down there, but I think he's got the capability of playing in the NFL.
It's so tough. I mean, the way quarterbacks are anymore. I mean, I would have never expected Josh Allen to do what he's doing in the NFL. I thought he was a college system quarterback, and he has proven me wrong left and right. Baker Mayfield is so up and down. It's so tough. You can have these great college quarterbacks, and they just bust in the NFL. And you have quarterbacks that are, system quarterbacks that don't put up the big stats, and then all of a sudden they're in the NFL and they're fantastic. So do I think him missing a few games has killed his stock? Probably not. NFL scouts look at so much tape and so much different statistical deals, and I mean they have books on all of these guys. So him missing 3 games because of his team not being able to play, I don't think that really hurts his stock myself.
Right.
All right, let's go to the NFL and let's hit the news wire here as Jalen Hurts finally is named the starting quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles. He came in late in that game. Carson Wentz just looks so bad.
Actually, he came in midway through the 3rd, so he's gonna look good. I mean, I'm excited to see what he does, but like I said, he's rushing behind that offensive line that is
So
banged up and so bad. So, and the next one though, I live. It's like I messaged you. I live in the Clarkston Heights,
Mhm.
right? And you live up in the Lewis and Orchard, miles apart.
Yes.
I could hear you screaming at your TV the other night during that game.
The Jets Raiders game is what he's talking
Yeah,
about.
Jets Raiders game. I could hear you screaming all the way across town. And
Yeah.
I think Paul even heard you because we were laughing. We were talking with Paul at the same time. I think Paul Dazenbrock heard you even yelling at your TV. I am sorry. Why do you run a cover zero?
But hold on.
Just crazy.
You guys don't understand my screaming. I was screaming that the Jets were winning. And I have proof that I was upset that the Jets were winning and the Jaguars were giving up their lead, and I was losing my mind. So that play made me give a huge sigh of relief that the Jets still have the number one pick. But Greg Williams, as you said, brings the house. Now, you and I are both huge components of why are people doing crazy prevent defenses, but that's with 2 or 3 minutes to go.
Right.
With a minute and a half to go. Not with 8 seconds to go and the Raiders are going to throw a Hail Mary. I understand not just bringing 3. I understand maybe bringing an extra blitzer and bringing 4 or 5. But the fact that they had nobody over the top over a very fast receiver just shows how stupid Greg Williams is, how dumb Adam Gase is for allowing any of this to happen, and how much the Jets just go, yeah, whatever. Because I'm sorry, if you have veteran leadership and you get that call, and I'm the defensive captain, I'm changing the call. I'm going to act like I didn't hear Greg Williams, and I'm changing the play on the field.
But and that's the thing. Greg Williams has got such a bad rap sheet.
He's terrible.
I mean, even listening, and I think I shared it to our pages. We get to the end of the quarter and pass balls incomplete.
Yeah, notice how you have so many guys blocking this Hail Mary throw.
Yeah, no kidding. But Greg Williams, his rap sheet is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Bounty Gate and all that. But when one of the greatest defensive minds comes out and says he is stupid because he runs a cover zero, and they didn't even run it right. If you listen to Rex Ryan, and I love Rex Ryan and what he has brought to the game and what he talks about on the morning shows and stuff. But for him to dissect and say, Greg Williams, your guys didn't even run it right. But I mean, it makes absolutely no sense to bring the house there, being that far down. So,
no, not at all. I'm with you. I loved Rex Ryan. I don't think he was the perfect coach for the Jets because they needed an offensive coach, and they're still looking for one. Because then they bring in Todd Bowles, who's a defensive coach as well, and then Adam Gase is by far the dumbest coach you've ever seen.
But now remember, Greg Williams does not count towards our over-under on Black Monday.
Correct. He is not a head coach. An interesting one last night in the Pittsburgh-Washington game. Did you see this live? I was really worried at first until they – I love how I have no problems with my mask until we start the show, and then it just gives me issues. I was really worried at first until they were really nice on the broadcast to say it was the leg that he did not get operated on. But they showed, and Alex Smith, the quarterback, who obviously had the horrific injury, is already your comeback player of the year. We'll get to that in a second. They show his left leg, and it is gushing blood. Like you just have streams of blood coming down his sock. Come to find out, his offensive lineman stepped back and just ripped into his leg with his cleat. But Alex Smith on ridiculous surgeries on his right leg, gushing blood on his left leg. And the Washington football team still gives the Pittsburgh Steelers their first loss.
Well, and that's the thing. I called it a few weeks ago. I thought that Alex Smith was going to be what helps turn that team around. But if you look, and I'm not going to bash on Pittsburgh because they've looked okay, but the last few weeks they have not looked all that well. And you look at the games, Washington come and just played. I mean, Baltimore held their own against them, but playing with minimal guys. They just have not looked the same for about the last 3 or 4 weeks.
No.
That record easily could be instead of 11-1, it could easily be 9-3.
I'll talk about it in our power rankings, but there is a big problem in Pittsburgh, and I don't know if they're going to be able to fix it.
It's Mike Tomlin. I don't like Mike
It's
Tomlin.
not.
I hate him. Hate him. He ran out in front of Jacoby Jones years ago and almost got tackled by Jacoby Jones as he was trying to run.
Right, and that was hey, smart play, smart play. Last thing on the news desk, we'll bring up that wonderful C word, and slightly positive. 45 players and staff tested positive this week. It's a 47.7% drop from last week, so hopefully things are getting better. However, tonight before the Ravens game, Des Bryant tests positive, like in pregame is told that he has tested positive, then goes on Twitter and says he's done for the season. Do I believe that part? I don't know, but that's cutting it close, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see him doing that. I mean, there's a lot of emotions. He talked earlier in the week about he was excited to get to finally play against his team. You know, was there any animosity against Dallas and all that? No. I think he was just jacked up, ready to go with the whole thing, and testing positive, you know, just before game time. So it's a little rough, but you know, I think things are working out a little bit better. But we go back to the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, all this started because of a strengthening coach, not following protocol, not wearing his tracer watch and all that, and 20 guys. I mean, now you look at 21 with him, you know, that have dealt with this pandemic, and
it's still around, obviously.
And it will be.
All right, you're listening to the R&R Sports Report right here on 88.9 KLCZ Lewiston. You can also check us out on klcz.com, on R&R Sports Report on Facebook, and R&R Sports Report on YouTube. If you are listening live on either Facebook or YouTube, you have the ability to comment to us live, and we will chat with you and discuss whatever you would like us to discuss. But now let's get into our three big takeaways for Week 13. And I hesitated putting how terrible my fantasy teams went because nobody cares.
Dave, we were told we weren't going to talk fantasy.
It's just I'm trying not to cry just thinking about it.
I hope I sneak into the playoffs in one of them.
All right,
tonight.
How about my first one? The NFL East no more. Half of the teams in the NFC East have decided to play football. The Giants have won 4 in a row, including a huge 17-12 win over the Seahawks, who just look terrible lately. I've always said that I worry about the Seahawks because they are such a home run hitting team. And if you can't hit those home runs, it's like the Yankees in baseball. You hit home runs, you look fantastic. But if you're striking out left and right trying to hit those home runs, you look pathetic. Mm-hmm. And that was the Seahawks this week. And the Giants have a very good defense. They've won 4 in a row. One of the better defenses in the league, probably the most underrated defense in the league because they are in the NFC East, but now they got 5 wins, and they're tied with the Washington football team, of all things, who actually have a positive plus-minus
on turnover.
Stat. Yeah. Well, not on turnovers, on score. They've actually outscored their opponents this season, which is something the NFC East has not done all year. Part of that is because they've outscored Dallas 66-19. But still, it's a positive number, which is not something you've not seen a green number in the NFC East all year.
No.
They've won 3 in a row. They're also 5-7. We were joking about 6 games being enough. I don't think that's enough anymore. So the Giants do on the tiebreaker. They beat the football team both of their games. Who wins this division? The Giants still have the Cardinals, Browns. They're at your Ravens and the Cowboys. The football team is at the 49ers, the Seahawks, the Panthers, and then at the Eagles. I need who do you think wins right now?
I will probably go Washington. I think Washington is going to be the team, and just because, and I hate to say it, it is our AFC North. You look at Cleveland. Cleveland's playing great. I'll talk about Cleveland here in a few minutes, but you know, Baker Mayfield looking good, but that double-headed monster of Chubb and Hunt. But then they got the Ravens. Ravens are coming back. They're looking a little bit better after. Yeah, I know, but after they have been playing. But nobody seems to have a problem with the Cowboys. So as Wilson was telling us a few minutes ago, I told him, I said, our defense. He says our defense is terrible. Fire Nolan. So I mean. Right now I would lean that way just because of the strength of the schedule. Washington, they could pull an upset against San Francisco, Seattle. And you and I even talked about it to our buddy Rob Nye. We can't put any faith in Seattle the way they're playing. They're not letting Russ cook. It's not all about Russ cooking the ball, and cooking and all that. Carolina has been so up and down, but I'm excited about watching Jalen Hurts in that game against Alex Smith.
It'd be good. I think 2-2 between these two teams would be enough, and that's all the Giants would have to do. I think Washington's going to have to go 3-1.
Right.
All right, give me your first one.
Mine, it's about Philly time. It is. It's all about finally seeing Jalen Hurts replace Carson Wentz. Wentz only completing 57.4% of his passes, 16 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. Not the number you want to see, and being sacked 50 times already this season. 5-0.
Yeah, honestly, I feel bad for Wentz.
And listening to Doug Peterson talk, I don't remember if it was early this morning, but he was asked, is Wentz confidence shot because Hurts is behind him? Is he looking over his shoulder?
I honestly don't think it. I think he's looking in front of him at the defenders running unblocked.
Yeah, and then that, me and I have talked about that offensive line is just garbage. Hurt. They're not playing in unison, and they look terrible.
All right, my second one is I felt so bad watching some of this game. The Chargers' special teams might be the worst unit in all of football. And I don't even know if I want to use the word might. There were multiple plays against the Patriots yesterday or on Sunday that they didn't have the right amount of people on the field. I want to say there were 3 plays where they had 10 people on the field for special teams.
It sounds like Cheney. How many times did we see that in the high school level?
Right. And this is the pros. You can count to 11, I would hope.
I would hope so.
They missed the field goal. They had a punt return for a touchdown. They had a blocked field goal return for a touchdown. And they had another punt return 61 yards down to the 17-yard line. It was not a good day at the office at all for the Chargers. I think they lost that one 41-0 or some ridiculous number. But, man, the special teams just kills them.
Yeah, and you've got to play all 3 parts of the game.
Yes, special teams are a part of football, just so you know. All right, second story, Robert.
Hey, I started singing this one, and I just when I thought about it and looked at what had happened, it's like give it away, and a little
right, now we're gonna have a copyright strike on YouTube.
But Chicago, how do you give up that game? You're leading 23-13 at halftime. Chicago gives up 3 touchdowns in the second half, and they only score once in the second half. I don't think Mitchell Trubisky is to blame for that game.
No.
Mitchell had a great game, 267, 1 touchdown, but his QBR was down a little bit, 44. But give it to Matthew Stafford, man. 27-42 for 402, 3 touchdowns. And Marvin Jones, 116 with that touchdown. And that touchdown, I was talking to you before the game. You look and we were talking defense, the whole Williams thing. But the same thing happened with Chuck Pagano. What are you doing, dude? You're running a cover 3, and you watch the safety kind of take a step forward as Marvin Jones flies by you to catch the touchdown pass. There was just no defense. I don't know what Chuck Pagano was doing as he was trying to strategize to keep that game close, but all of a sudden it was like Chicago defense couldn't do anything, and you give the soon-to-be Hall of Famer chance to get into the end zone, and it's over. It made no sense why at all Chuck Pagano would do that.
And my last one is Houston. We have a problem. There's a good game between the Texans and the Colts. 24-20 at halftime. The Colts led. And then the Colts only scored 2 points the entire second half. But the Texans scored 0.
Mm-hmm.
It was like the offense is just shut off at halftime.
It was like the light switch.
Yeah. Watson gets sacked, obviously, in the end zone for the 2 points for the Colts. And then the Texans go all the way down the field. They're at the 2-yard line, minute 23 to go, with a chance to win the game. And Watson fumbles the snap. It was a bad snap. I won't put this all on Watson. Colts recover it. Colts win the game. Colts still have a good chance to make the playoffs, if not win that division. And my favorite part of that play is they showed J.J. Watt just laughing. It's just been that kind of year for Houston. You kind of feel bad for him with whether it's the injuries or the COVID issues or just bad play. Just a rough way to lose the game.
Yeah, by far. And I feel bad for that guy. You know, does he resign with Houston or does he test the waters elsewhere? You know, it'll be interesting to see what happens. My final one, and I went back to AFC North. I mean, AFC North. I had to, but it's not for the team you think. It's for the Cleveland Browns. Are they a contender? I mean, right now they're number 5 in the playoffs if things were to start now. You know, the only thing that was worried me a little bit was Cleveland only scored 3 points in that second half, but Baker looked decent. 334, 4 touchdowns, a big 75-yard touchdown to Peoples. But what about the two-headed monster of Chubb and Hunt? 113 yards, a touchdown.
A very ho-hum for them.
Yeah, but you look at the defense. I mean, Garrett was back. But, I mean, what does that say about holding Derrick Henry to 60 yards rushing?
Well, a lot of the Henry stuff is because they jumped up to such a huge lead. I think Tennessee went, okay, Baker Mayfield, you have to beat us. And luckily Baker Mayfield was good Baker Mayfield on Sunday, and he was able to jump out to a huge lead. I worry about Cleveland because they let Tennessee come all the way back. And they had an onside kick chance to get back into that game. Yeah,
Tannehill, I mean, he looked decent. 389, 3 touchdowns. Corey Davis will look like a monster. I was messaging back and forth with buddy Tim Neal, you know, our buddy, and he just looked unbelievable what he was doing with the ball. 182 yards, that's just crazy. But if you look at the Cleveland Browns schedule that's remaining, they've got to play Baltimore in the Dog Pound. Then they're on the road to both the Giants and your Jets back to back in New York, and then they go back home to play Pittsburgh. Do they go 2-2 that final? Can they go 3-1? I mean, there's lots of things that can happen there.
I will guarantee you this right now: if Jacksonville doesn't win another game, the Jets beat the Browns Week 16.
There's a good you think there's a good possibility with that, huh?
The Browns, what? How many games did they lose in a row? When they went 0-16 and had lost a bunch the year before, and then went on Monday night and played the Jets, and they beat the Jets to unlock all the beer coolers and stuff. If the Jets have a chance to lose their number 1 pick, it is happening that game.
Week 16.
They're going to win Week 16. And then they play Bill Belichick, and if Bill Belichick does not have a chance to make the playoffs, Bill Belichick will outcoach Adam Gase to make sure the Jets win that game and not get the number 1 pick. But I am guaranteeing that the Jets get their first win on Week 16 against those Browns.
That's an interesting. Did you look at your Magic 8 Ball before you?
No, I've just been a Jets fan my entire life, and I know how this works.
That's a crazy. I'm shocked. I think that, but I mean, they look really good. I mean, especially with Hunt. Hunt didn't have near as many yards this week, but Chubb looked decent. I mean, it can be very interesting seeing and going forward with what goes on. You know, I don't know.
I've just been a Jets fan. I know how this works. All right, let's go quickly. Do a rapid fire. Your favorite segment, my favorite segment. Randy's Believe It or Not. We're running a little late here, but we got some good ones. And this is your NFL Awards 3-quarter edition, believe it or not. That's what I'm calling it.
The 3 quarters.
Yeah, we're three quarters through the season. Well,
I can't believe
almost.
I can't believe
almost.
it already.
Once this game finally gets done. All right, first, believe it or not. And believe it or not, it is a 2-person race for the MVP now between Mahomes and Rodgers.
Yes.
And I don't believe it. I think it's a 1-person race. I think Mahomes has run away with it. Rodgers has been great.
And that's where I'm going to lean. I'm going to lean a little bit to Rodgers. I think if he can keep his guys going down the straight and narrow over the next couple of weeks, and I'm not 100% what his schedule is going forward, but I like Rodgers and what he's done with that team this year.
Oh, he's been fantastic. Mahomes has just been ridiculous. That team is gross. I hate saying it because I have another friend named Robert who's a huge Chiefs fan who just blows up my messenger every time they do something good. It drives me nuts. And now that brings me to my trivia question for Robert. I'm a little nicer than he is when he does his trivia question at the end of the show. But we believe that the two people that have a chance to win the MVP are Mahomes and Rodgers, two quarterbacks. Who was the last non-quarterback to win the NFL MVP award? Bonus points if you can get the year.
The year, huh? It was running back, and it was it's like right on the tip of my tongue. It's when he was almost 2,000 yards rushing that year, 1,800 yards rushing, somewhere right in there. Why am I drawing a blank?
Oh, I need an answer.
Yeah, it was a running back, but I don't remember. So it was like mid 2000s, I think, if I remember right.
If I say 2012, will that help you?
No. Let's see. That was the year the Ravens won the Super Bowl, 2012. Does that help you?
It was not a Raven. I'll tell you that.
It was the year they won the Super Bowl. I do have that stuck in my brain.
It was Adrian Peterson.
Yeah, AP.
All right. There, I got him. I stumped him.
Yeah, and I even have AP as being I talked about him wanting to be he's going to be the Hall of Famer. I mean, first ballot Hall of Famer.
All right. Next, believe it or not, a Chief will win Offensive Player of the Year, whether it's Mahomes, Hill, or Kelsey.
Offensive player, yes.
I agree.
It'll be Mahomes. I think
Kelsey is setting records, man.
Yeah, he's good. I mean, you look at what he's doing to the defenses, and they still are not getting any kind of major defense to slow that guy down.
We'll get into the Chiefs more when we have more time, probably playoff time, but the way that offense is set up is just gross. Okay, believe it or not, I think we can move on really quickly on this one, but they should just hand Alex Smith the Comeback Player of the Year award.
Yeah, we talked about that. He's turning Washington around, and I've said that from the time he stepped on the field. So
I had said that the moment he stepped on the field, he should win it, and then the way he stepped on the first time felt so uncomfortable to me. I still wanted to give it to Big Ben, but the fact that he's been out there for the last few weeks and they're winning games and he looks like he's more comfortable, absolutely, he's got this one. We talked about the Browns, so believe it or not, Kevin Stefanski is now the front runner for Coach of the Year.
I would say barely, but I'm still on the Bulls train down there in Brian Flores down there in Miami.
Not on Mike Tomlin. I mean, I guess they lost their first game.
No.
So I have some fun trivia. I'm not going to ask you. Last time a Cleveland Browns coach won Coach of the Year was Forrest Gregg in 1976.
That was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago.
I was 2.
Do you know the last time that Mike Tomlin won Coach of the Year?
I don't think he ever has.
He never has.
Yeah, I don't think he ever has.
Never has. That actually shocked me.
Yeah, well,
there's been some good Steelers teams, and for Tomlin not to win Coach of the Year ever is really shocking. And then the last one here, it's not an award, but Anthony Lynn, head coach for the Los Angeles Chargers, is now the favorite to be the next head coach to be fired.
I say yes. Yeah, I mean, what's going on down there? It's between him and Nagy.
Yep.
And I think Nagy is just he's garbage.
And that's if a coach gets fired before Black Monday, because we know Black Monday Adam Gase is going, or I become a free agent.
I still think we need to we'll have to get Shannon to get you some pads and put you in pads and let you play for him.
Something. But I will become a free agent. I've already announced this. I don't know if it was on the show or just to friends. But if Adam Gase is not fired on Black Monday, I am no longer a Jets fan. I will become a free agent. It has gotten to that point.
Do I get to pick out your first jersey?
No. I don't know how I'm going to pick my new team, if it's going to be random or if we'll have a poll or something. But I can't do it. Well, I already need to just give up on my Knicks.
Well, the thing about it is you and I have been on Jacksonville for like the last 4 years, and they were, 4 years ago they were looking good in what they were going to do, and now they've just kind of went to,
just rough.
Yeah.
All right, it is now time for the we got nothing to preview. Let's just go right into the power rankings. We're running out of time here for our football hour. we got good football games. We'll talk about on the games to watch. That's when we'll do our little mini preview for the NFL. But Robert, I think Power Rankings got a little shook up this week.
By far, and we're watching some of these teams just sink back down. But you and I also talked to a buddy of ours after seeing his post on Facebook, and we both commented the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. Seattle Seahawks fans, I hope you all hear this. It is you are falling down, and you do not even make it into the top 5 for me right now. I've got Buffalo at number 5, Green Bay at number 4, New Orleans at number 3, Pittsburgh at number 2, and Kansas City at number 1.
All right, and I'll go ahead and switch it over to me real quick. My power rankings are interesting. Oh, Denise tells you, by the way, it's time to change your jersey. Just so you know, Robert. My power rankings are as followed. It was really tough for me not to move Tampa Bay around. They were on bye week this week. I believe, other than the one team I have ranked ahead of them, that Tampa Bay is the most dangerous team in the NFC. They've struggled off and on. Tom Brady has not looked great. I don't know if he's the perfect fit for Tampa Bay, but I think overall that team is very good. I have the Buffalo Bills number 4, right behind number 3, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that is only for the fact that the Bills and the Steelers play this week, and I will make the Bills try to decide whether or not they are better than the Steelers, who, as you said, Robert, have looked really, really rough the last couple weeks. And I'll tell you what, if you tell me the Steelers throw the ball 51 times in a game, I'm not afraid of that team.
Yeah, it's just crazy to see what the Steelers have kind of lacked over the last few weeks. And I mean, playing against a demised Ravens team last week, and still to get so many credits of they could have stayed into it, and and they only end up barely winning. It just tells me that there's something else going on with that team.
Yeah, for sure. So again, Bills are 4, Steelers are 3, and then the top 2 for me are no-brainers. I think the New Orleans Saints are the best team in the National Football Conference. They don't have Drew Brees, and they are not missing a beat.
That was the only thing that prevented me from putting them number 2 and moving Pittsburgh to moving to 3, was because I love Hill, what he's doing, and he's doing things well. He finally got his first touchdown to a receiver, and had his first passing touchdown this weekend. But he's not Drew Brees, but he's still got the things going on and doing well.
And then number 1 for me is the Kansas City Chiefs. That offense is so scary. It is built on Patrick Mahomes, who is a magician out there, is able to avoid sacks like nobody else and buy time for his speedy receivers to go all the way down the field. So you can't play man-to-man against Tyreek Hill or he's going to burn you. So then you play zone, and then you have Kelsey, who is the best receiver ever against zone defenses, who will find empty holes everywhere and will just sit down and make catches. The only thing I'll worry about is Kansas City has 0 running game. I know CEH came into the game yesterday with a stomach flu, and he was going to try to play and then just never felt good enough to play. Le'Veon Bell is a shell of himself. Williams is okay, but they have to get somewhat of a running game going just to get a little bit of the weight off of Mahomes' shoulders, but that offense is too good.
Yeah, I think they just, if they keep running the way they are, they might just run their way out of the playoffs if they can't find somebody. I mean, that's a lot of pressure on the rookie, a ton of pressure on the rookie to step up and do things, but they've got to figure something out. If they don't, one wrong move and something might happen.
You just look at the rest of the NFL, and it's so tough to find a team that is going to stack up well against the Chiefs in the AFC. We both have talked about issues with the Steelers. The Bills, maybe, but you have to have good Josh Allen.
Yeah, and he looked good.
He looked really good yesterday. If you get that Josh Allen, you got a chance.
Yeah.
So let's quickly look at Week 14, just because we got a few more minutes here to finish off the football hour. We got a Thursday game, since you Ravens didn't screw things up this week. Patriots and Rams should be pretty good.
I mean, who would have figured 45 points this last week that the Patriots have put
again,
up?
when the Chargers special teams gives you
Yeah.
30 of it,
Right.
you're going to put up a lot of points.
But Jared Goff has to prove something. We're back on national stage again. Look for Goff to hit Cup and the guys and get things back. I think they crush Cam and the Patriots.
Then you look at Sunday, and a couple of your early games are really good. Kansas City, Miami could be a playoff preview. I don't like Miami's chances in that game, but that's at least a preview, possibly. Cardinals, Giants, all of a sudden have a lot going on as far as playoffs go. Vikings and Buccaneers should be pretty good.
I think the game that I've got that I would want to watch the most, and if it's on the NFL side, Vegas comes comes back and wins, but they've got to hold off Indianapolis. I think there's going to be some fireworks down there in Vegas.
That should be a good one. That's really the only afternoon game that I'm looking forward to playing. And we actually have 6 games right now that are set in the afternoon schedule. The football team versus 49ers, again, has a lot of playoff implications now as Washington is getting things going. I'm curious if my Jets make it interesting again for me, and if I have a heart attack, or if maybe Seattle can just blow them out so I can not have to worry about that. And then your 2 primetime games, Sunday Night Football, Pittsburgh and Buffalo. We were talking about that. Who's going to be number 3 in my power rankings next week?
Yeah, I think that 100%.
I mean, that's what they're worried about, right?
I have to say this, and I'm kind of glad, and I hate to say this because I'm missing it so much. I'm kind of glad that we're not bowling on Sunday night, because I really want to watch that game. I mean, just seeing what Josh Allen could do against Big Ben.
And then Monday Night Football, because Baltimore just continues to refuse to play on Sunday.
They want to play primetime games, man. Come on.
What is this now?
I even finally went and switched the jersey, and people can see that. I had to go and find the Hall of Famer jersey. I put on Ed Reed. Even though the boys are wearing black tonight, I am having to sport my Ravens stuff.
Baltimore's played Tuesday, and then Monday, right?
Yeah.
When's the last time they played?
No, they play Wednesday. Wednesday.
Oh, it was a Wednesday. You're right.
Highest ranking game, even beat the NBA Finals.
Well, that's not hard
From
to
a
do
few
anymore.
years ago.
It's really not that hard to do anymore. But yeah, Ravens and Browns on Monday Night Football. That should be a good one. And there you go. That is our football hour. You are listening to R&R Sports Report right here on KLCZ 88.9 FM. It's currently 48 degrees outside, much warmer than it was last week, which I'm okay with. Again, you can check us out on the R&R Sports Report on both Facebook and YouTube and comment, just like Robert's wife did, saying it was time to change his jersey, and he listened.
I did.
Like a good boy.
I actually did. I still got one more. I got my black one to put on. We'll switch it here as soon as we get to the fourth quarter of this ball game. Baltimore's still up by 7. They still haven't covered the spread yet, though.
Again, that is why Robert is still talking. I think if the Ravens were losing at this point, it would be a one-man show. I've done that before, but it'd be a little weird with Robert throwing stuff in the background. But Robert, it is now that time again for us to introduce a very fun special guest.
Before you turn his camera on,
I will not turn.
Don't turn his camera. I want him to look at himself first, because I think he's upside down.
Am I upside
He is
down?
totally upside down. He's got that thing covered.
Be the second time today.
Yeah. Us having to wear our mask in here.
We're only 9 months into this mask thing. It's taken him a little while to figure it out.
The directions got lost in the laundry.
And we'll get his mic turned on.
Oh, yeah, that would be good.
Might help a little bit. But a really good friend of ours, as we have covered many games with him here at we've got the Lewiston High School Athletic Director, Mr. Corey Williams. How are you doing, sir?
Very well. Appreciate you guys having me.
It's finally good to see you in person, except via text over the last, few months because of this C word that we hate to use. But it's good to see you, and I'm excited to talk to Lewiston sports. How about you?
Absolutely. Always ready to.
Well, first thing I want to hit on, and the big one, the $1 million question up there in the Lewiston Orchards. How is the new facility for you guys up there?
It's primo. It is state of the art. It is absolutely beautiful. It's too bad that we've got to open it during this pandemic, But our kids have showed so much resiliency. Our teachers have showed so much resiliency, and everybody. And we're just keeping the train on the tracks, and we're just going to keep rolling and keep going. But as far as the facility, it's second to none.
Yeah, and I've seen some pictures just over the last few games as the girls have played up there. The boys have opened up. They did on Friday up there, and just seeing pictures of what is the facility looks like, the new gym floor. How many people does the gymnasium hold? And hopefully, when do we get to start seeing some fans in there? I know there's some rule changes that happened this week.
In its full splendor, it'll hold 2,000. It's got 2 sections, above and below. Obviously, there's been some restrictions that we have faced. When the state went to stage 2, which allowed 10 spectators, and how they define spectators, we came to the tough agreement. When I say we, the Inland Empire League and the ADs and principals talked about equity and how can we be equitable within those spectators. And we decided at that point in time that we would stream the games, that it would be very tough to be equitable with 10, whether it be 5 visitors and 5 home, or 10 home, and how to spread those out and be equal. So the initial decision was to go with no spectators, and we would stream the games. Since then, obviously, we've had a lot of input. We're going to give it a shot, and we're going to go with 10 spectators. We're going to go, as an Inland Empire League, we're going to go with 10 spectators at varsity contests only, to give that a shot, give it a try, see how it works, and then hopefully, we prove ourselves, and we can maybe include those sub-varsities really soon as far as those 10. But it's a process, and there's a lot of dominoes that come with the protocol and getting things right. And to me, you get one chance to do something right. And so, we're going to start with varsity only, see how it goes, and then hopefully progress either as a school or as a league with the 10 per level.
Now, when it comes to the 10, do they need to send in a video to show how loud they can be? Is there a qualifying process for
this? It is not a tryout system, but though that is a terrific idea.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be tough, and I've had an opportunity to talk to a couple of Lewiston parents, and they're really struggling with the idea of not being able to see and be in this brand new facility, or even if it was Booth Hall, with what is going on, and so it's got to be tough on the mindset of not just the parents, but the kids playing in front of who they've played in front of for many years and not have that support there.
It's atmosphere. And I think we do a great job at Lewiston, whether it be parents or students coming in to support and creating that one-of-a-kind atmosphere that teams don't want to come in and play. And you do lose some of that. We've got to kind of think outside of the box how to create that atmosphere. But you're absolutely right. It's definitely not lost on us, as administrators or athletic directors, that we get that parents want to be involved. We understand that. We're very sympathetic to that. It's about trying to keep kids safe. And the bottom line is, and what I try to tell people is, our end goal is to keep kids active and keep them playing, and whatever that takes. And so it's baby steps on, the fans, but the bottom line is we want to keep these kids playing.
And you said keeping the kids safe, and that was the next thing I was curious about. So what does Idaho rules say based on COVID? Are the kids tested weekly? Are they doing any kind of testing?
There's no test requirements.
What protocols?
Yeah, it's the bottom line is hopefully there's common sense involved. There's been a lot of information out there that the district's put out as far as, obviously, if you don't feel well, common sense, stay home.
Right.
We're not going to hold that against you. Our coaches have got to be utilizing a little more gray area when a kid misses a practice and for what reason, as long as the kid communicates. But bottom line is, we don't have a lot in place as far as testing is concerned.
Right.
We definitely can't mandate that somebody goes and gets tested. So it's a case-by-case deal. Parents have been pretty good for the most part about being upright and honest about it, and sharing that information. The kids as well, they're very versed, and they've been around this long enough now to know and share and communicate. And so hopefully, like I said, the best thing is we keep kids playing, keep them healthy, and we go.
Yeah, and I think another major thing, and I think listening to video with Coach Ulrich the other day was the environment in there, and so how does that play in? He was talking about the kids being loud and finally hyping up a little bit more in the second quarter in that first home game, and finally things were getting a little bit more. Is Jason doing anything different with the kids, or even Carly? I mean, we'll talk about Carly Wilson, who just left Moscow, coached up at Moscow, come back down to her alma mater. Is Carly or Jason doing anything different with the kids to keep them upbeat in this stuff?
I think they're both just stressing that we've got to be our fans. Are those kids on the bench? You've got to be our support system. And you've got to support those kids out there, and you hear it. You hear those kids on film and on our streams. It's not silent. Those kids are trying their best. It's different, and it's adapting and overcoming. And obviously, it's not ideal, but there's nobody else in any better situation. And so it's making the best out of it. And I think again, it's more about come together as a team and supporting each other and playing for each other. And I know both of them stress that. Right.
And like I mentioned a second ago, Carly Wilson coming back to teach, to coach here at alma mater. How'd you convince her to leave Moscow?
There's no convincing. It's, I think she's always bled purple and gold.
Now, wait a minute. I'm gonna hold up on that for a minute, because I know she went through the building I teach at up at Lincoln Middle School. She wore the red and black and the white, so I know there's a little bit of red and black in that.
Not where you start, Robert. It's where you finish. So
I just noticed that Corey shows up the 1 week he knows you're going to wear black.
Well, yeah, but I'm watching my game where Marquise Brown just finally got another touchdown. So Baltimore up by 2 scores. But we talked about the gym, and he talked about and then. No, we know what was going to happen with Booth Hall here soon, and they're going to keep things where that. What happens with Bengal Field? Do we start getting the idea of moving up to the Orchard soon?
Obviously, at this point, it's an idea. That's the end goal. It probably won't happen as early as this coming year. We're still looking at, the funds to make that happen. But the end goal is to have everything, both inside and outside, up there within shouting distance of that great facility. The only off-site varsity sports venue will still be Church Field, which is just a stone's throw away. Mm-hmm. But everything else, the end goal and where we will end up with eventually is to have everything on site. It'll be super nice to just be able to walk out of the facility and access, your fields instead of getting into a car, both for kids, coaches, ADs, and others.
And I wouldn't mind it because I live a block away.
Exactly.
So if everything's up there, once everything is able to open up and I can actually show back up at these games, it would be nice to go, I'm just going to walk.
Well, even the cross country is up there. And I had the opportunity a few years ago to call and help you out and call the state tournament up there. And just seeing all of that right through in that one area is gorgeous. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens here. Let's talk a little bit about football for another minute. Not the way the season wanted to end, but on a high note, you got a couple players leaving this week, going down to playing the Blue-Gray game.
Yeah, it's a good opportunity for them to showcase their skills and to keep playing. And again, be active during this time. So any chance you get it to be active, you take advantage.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about that. Was a couple of the injuries that happened, and next question going into, we've got some boys that are not playing basketball because of the football injuries. First, let's see,
Cruz Hepburn
was hurt first. That's why I
was they're still a little bit away. We're not going to rush it. It's about how you end, not how you start. So we're going to make sure that they're healthy enough to compete. But in the meantime, kids are stepping up. It's next man up, and kids are getting some time and proving themselves, and it's only going to help us in the long run because they're gaining that big time experience that maybe they wouldn't have gotten with those minutes early on.
All right. And we talked about the boys, the girls. Katie Wessels did not play this last week. All we were told was leg injury, so hopefully it's not a long injury.
She's dealing with a stress fracture. So she'll be out a few weeks. How many weeks, I don't know. It depends on how it progresses, and every kid's different with it. But it's a blow, but she's got a great attitude. She'll definitely be missed because she's somebody you have to prepare for, and she's a force in there. But again, it's adapt and overcome, and we put together a little smaller lineup at times that was tough to guard, and Carly will get them going.
That's good. We'll talk a little bit here before we jump back, and I've got one more thing, but I'm going to stay in the basketball for just a second. And let's kind of review a little bit over the last couple of games. We'll start things off with the girls as they played Lake City last Tuesday. You know, I asked you to come in last week,
Sure.
but that was your first home game there at the new gymnasium up at LHS, and tough loss there against Lake City. Emily Collins has a great game. So does Katie Wessels, both double digits. And then having Sandpoint and lose a tough one there on Saturday by 5 with no Katie Wessels, but Amelia Foss steps up.
Absolutely.
Who do we want to look for if Wessels is out for a little bit here on the girls' side?
You know, it's hard to point any one person out. I think the biggest thing and what Carly stresses is that consistency in defense. So I think it's that team defense. I hate stressing one person over another, because especially now, you know, those kids have to come together as a team, and you're seeing glimpses of that. And I think it will happen. But, you know, I think I won't point out any one kid, but I think it's collectively. I know Carly really stresses that defense, and she's happy with where they're at defensively. We just got to cut down on our turnovers and unforced errors, and I think we'll compete. We competed with Lake City, save for a couple possessions that put them over the top. But again, I think it's the collective defense that will keep us in games.
All right. And the same thing on the other side. You know, they look at the boys, and I heard Jason talk about working the ball around and the shot clock, not having a shot clock. And for a Washington kid that's had a shot clock, it's tough sometimes to watch a team move the ball around for a minute and a half and still not shoot the ball.
Old school basketball.
It's just like, oh my God, put the ball up. But, you know, you look at Jace McArcher, the first game there on Friday, comes out 12 points. Braden Forsman, you know, I think he was off the bench that night, and he still come up with 10 points and 10 plus rebounds and a double-double. So, and then you look at the other game the other night against Timberlake, and just had a 30-point second quarter. But as Foss would say, the milkman came through. Joe Molkin with 19. What are you looking for in that ball club this year for Jason?
I think you hit on it. It's balance. It's the inside-out attitude, and it starts with George down low, commanding some attention that'll open things up for others. But this group has the ability to be balanced. I don't think you need to rely on any one person, especially when we're healthy and firing on all cylinders. The biggest thing that you mentioned is the balance, but it's the sharing of the basketball and hitting that open man, kind of that Gonzaga philosophy. It's not about who gets the shot. It's the best shot available, and move the ball until that happens. And I think those kids are buying in. They played around and they played with each other, long enough. And they are unselfish. It's about sharing the basketball. But yeah, we have the opportunity to be very dangerous offensively and defensively for that matter. We're very, very long.
Yeah. So 2 more things. I know, and it's been rough for both of us. No Golden Throne this year.
Mm-hmm.
Now Clarkson probably getting bounced back again, as Inslee now has said, January 4th. So what that does for WIAA, we'll find out over the next few weeks. But no Golden Throne. I mean, that's hard saying, not having it since, you know, its inception of '95. So.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to many of those games as a student, and then to work a few years at the radio station we worked at, and be able to call some of those games, especially now that it's been moved to the activity center. It's always been the one game I look forward to. How is it not being able to do it this year?
It's a blow. There's no soft way of putting it. I feel horrible for seniors on both sides of the river. It's a week. It's a week of events that those kids look forward to, plan. I'm so proud of our leadership that puts so much time in raising money for those charities. So now we've just got to think outside the box, you know, to make special moments in this season that doesn't involve Golden Throne. Mm-hmm. But I'd be lying if I didn't say it was a blow, and it's tough. And it's tough to face those seniors, whether it be in the Clarkson side or the Lewiston side, and let them know that wasn't going to happen. But like I said, kids are resilient. They will bounce back. They will find ways to make this season special. And again, we're playing, and nobody's in any better situation.
And then the other big one is we lose out on our 3-day Vista tournament, and that's been a huge thing for the community. If you've had a chance to come down to LC and watch, we've had teams from Seattle area come over and play in Moscow, and as far north as Rogers come down and play, and different teams look really good, and you look forward to watching. Again, not going to happen this year, so hopefully things get changed up a little bit.
Very much.
Last thing, any big athlete signings? I mean, I know there's been a couple. I know a few have kind of been very quiet about what's going on. Talking with Jared, he still has not made a decision yet. Hopefully we're going to have him on after he gets back from Blueberry here this weekend. But any athletes that are making some noise up there that are signing their letter of intention?
We will have a couple, and I think I'll leave it to them to present, as I know the parents want to put that out there. But we'll have a couple, and we will celebrate those. What we always do is in the spring. It's so hard to do a signing each time somebody signs. So in the spring, we'll do our annual spring signing and make a big deal out of it. But Austin Gomez is the latest. He signed with LCSC to play tennis. And so that one's confirmed, and congratulations to him. He puts in so much time, and others will trickle in as we go, and I'll get that information out. But we'll do our annual spring signing. Hopefully we'll be in a place where we can do it in person like we've done in the past. If not, we'll recognize them in another way.
That's good. Well, we're glad that you finally was able to get up here and be part of this, as your counterpart has messaged me a couple of times. Mr. Driscoll listening at home, I think he's probably streaming or watching, but glad you came on, and we'll have you on again, talk some more sports, hopefully different environment than sitting in here with mask on and all that.
Absolutely.
Before you go, you want to plug where you'd be able to stream some of this basketball games for people who watch?
If you go to the NFHS network, anything inside our gymnasium, whether it be wrestling or basketball, will be streamed through the NFHS network. It's a monthly subscription for $10.99. You get that whole month, and you can basically stream anybody in the United States that's got that once you get your subscription in. So you can watch. We've got grandmas and grandpas watching from all over the United States. So it's a good deal. It's obviously we'd rather be in person, but we'd be streaming regardless.
Now, do you think that sticks around?
The streaming aspect?
Once everything goes back, do you think that is just something that now that we've kind of toyed around with, that it would stick around again for the grandmother grandpas that can't be around?
Absolutely.
For those games?
We started it last year. We used a Pixelot camera, and our league decided to go with that. The initial thought was maybe it would eat at some of your attendance, but that didn't happen. People want to go to games anyway, but the streaming option is nice for those people that can't make it to games, whether it be weather, out of town, family. So we will continue. Absolutely.
Well, we appreciate you joining us there, Mr. Williams. Again, thank you, Lewiston High School Athletic Director, Mr. Corey Williams, in studio with us tonight.
My pleasure. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
We talked a lot about high school stuff, and other schools that are looking good there, Randy, is both the Prairie boys and girls, along with the Lapway boys. Our buddy Zach Eastman, coach out there at Lapway, and they are looking quite well so far this season. What do you think of Lapway's chances to go back to the state tournament?
Lapway's always fun. Again, we were talking about the activity center tournament, the Avista tournament, and obviously we were mostly calling Lewis and Clarkson games, but when Lapway would show up and play, they're always fun. So it's always nice to see them get going. So yes, off to a great start. We both know Zach Eastman from bowling, so it's nice to see him thrive over there, and I would like to see exactly where they're able to go. Again, as he said many times, at least we're playing, we're doing it as safe as possible, and we'll get going, and we'll see when Washington can get going as well. But so far, so good for Lewiston.
Yeah. And I wanted to throw a shout out to Moscow. I had a couple of chances to do games with Brian up, our buddy Brian Bremley, who we've had on the show a couple times, as going up and watch Moscow. 7 of their players make the 4A Inland Empire All-League football team this past week. And the senior University of Utah commit, Jonah Ellis, ends up being the player of the year, and he, plays both sides of the ball, plays tight end, but he is going to sign and be a linebacker for the Utes down there. So excited for that. Other mentions, you've got Chad Redinger, their senior quarterback, senior O lineman Tyler Skinner, Preston Blyenberger, Caden McKiblin, and Mike Ellis, along with D-back Cody Isaacson. But some mentioned names of some players that I got to watch, and Brian got to watch. It was crazy. Receiver Alden Waddington from Lakeland, Eamon Munier, both of these guys also from Lakeland are getting huge looks all over in the D1. And defensive back Elijah Larson, that dude can hit and hit hard from Sandpoint. So congratulations to those folks, especially the ones that are from Moscow, those 7 guys.
All right, let's look at the college ranks here. And the LCSC men finally were able to get on the court. We talked about the women last week, where they were able to play a couple games on Montana. And now the men, they actually got to play here at home on Friday and Saturday. It was not announced before our show on Tuesday, or we would have talked about it. But they finally got those games in against Yellowstone Christian College. And they were able to win both games of that doubleheader. First game, 82-54, where Travis Yenner led the way with 18 points. He was 6 of 7 from 3. And that was a big story, as the Warriors themselves, 15 of 24, 62.5% from the three-point arc there in their season opener after all of these starts and stops. And fantastic start for them. They win game 2, 98-49. Namek Mitchell leads the way there with 18 points. You add in Tristan Bradley, who, friend of the show, Hodges Bailey, Orion Courtney, Brock Henry all scored double digits as well. As I'm going to take Robert off the screen so he can change off his thing.
Yeah, I got to do it one more time here.
You're over here changing. Danik Mitchell actually was named the CCC Player of the Week, as the LCSC Warriors were named your CCC Team of the Week, as things starting to get going a little bit. I've been told that no new games have been scheduled just yet, but they will be announcing them a few days before they get played. Obviously, with COVID, you're changing things up on the fly, as Robert just did a quick change over here. You're going to get really hot with all of those jerseys on.
I'm putting on, and this will make Pete Williams happy, an Oregon alum, Oregon Duck alum, hello, not a jersey. As, 52 yards. Yeah. Missed it. Baltimore leads right now, 24-10. Good thing I'm recording it so I can watch it at home when I get home too. But
that's sad.
I know.
I'm just kidding. But again, no new games have been scheduled just yet. But definitely keep your eye on lcwarriors.com. Yeah. They will update it there. We'll try to keep you updated here on KLCZ as well. It's a fluid situation for December, that's for sure. We go on to the rest of college basketball as your Gonzaga Bulldogs, still the number 1 team on the men's side. South Carolina on the women's side goes down, surprisingly, losing a game this last week, dropping to number 5. So Stanford now your number 1 team in the women. The Bulldogs had their 1 game this week, which was disappointing. They played West Virginia. Fantastic game, back and forth, was close the entire way. Zags ends up winning that game 87-82 back on Wednesday night. Unfortunately, their game that was scheduled for Saturday against Baylor ended up being postponed, as they had a couple of positive tests go into that day. It was canceled the day of that game, which was really disappointing. And now the Zags have canceled their next 4 games against Tarleton State, Southern, Northern Arizona, and Idaho, which means their next currently scheduled game will be December 19th against Iowa, who's ranked number 3 in the country.
Yeah, I am really looking forward to that, but I was looking forward to that Baylor game. I know you and I were both talking about it, what plans we were making to what to do, and it sucks because you look at what this ball club is doing, and they're getting it from everybody. Like Corey was talking, with the Lewiston folks and what he's doing, what Coach Jason Ulrich is doing with the Lewiston boys. Mark Few's doing the same thing up there at Gonzaga. Drew Timmy is being Drew Timmy. I think he right now is probably the player of that team.
Yes.
And you got lots of other ones. Corey Kispert is looking unbelievable. 19 points the other day. Joel Ayayi, say that about 15 times fast. 21 points. He led all scorers in that game. But I think the main thing is they're showing a ton of balance.
Oh, they are such a deep team.
Yeah, Nemhard coming off the bench, another 19 points for him. I think they have a chance to go extremely far in this season as long as the injury bug doesn't get them, which
Right.
There was that scare with the freshman the other day.
Yeah, what is it? Rolled his ankle, I think,
Yeah.
a little bit, and it looks like he'd be okay. He has plenty of time to rest now. But so that's the one positive with all the cancellations. Another local team, WSU, off to a 3-0 start, as they beat Oregon State 59-55. Isaac Ponton leads the way with 15 points in his 39 minutes, and again, Cougars only shooting 32%, but finding ways to win games.
You can't do that. I mean, you got a guy that goes 4 for 18. I mean, he was 1 for 13 in the first game of the season, and for him to be 4 of 18, I know he's the leader, and they're looking for him to be the main leader of this team. But I have a funny feeling that they've got to figure something out, and they've got to figure it out quick, or we're going to have a rough season when they get to a little bit more Pac-12 play.
It's crazy the fact that they shot better from three at 38% than they did from the field at 32%. Their game against Colorado, Saturday, was postponed. So their next game will be December 9th, tomorrow, against Idaho. And then Sunday at 2 o'clock, they will take on Portland State. So we'll keep you guys all updated on Cougars and Warriors and Bulldogs and Bengals. And we got all sorts of basketball to look forward to here.
Yeah, we didn't even touch on all of the other schools that are going around right now. Like I said, Prairie is looking extremely well, and some of these other ones. So excited to see what some of these kids can do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So we'll keep you all updated there. But now let's move on to the NBA with a little bit of news as the Lakers make 2 big deals. LeBron signs a 2-year extension through 2023 for $85 million. I think that's okay. Not to be outdone, Anthony Davis, who was a free agent for a minute, went back to the Lakers and agreed to a 5-year deal worth $190 million.
That's just crazy what these guys are bringing home. And Dad and I talked about it earlier today about some of these players and what they're making and how much they're making. But we have one of them, and one of them in the NFL, that his foundation is losing money now, and he's wanting money for his foundation, and he's losing money. But empty out your pocket a little bit.
Hey, nobody wants to take out money of their own account. They want to find ways. I mean, every time you see a stadium get built, the owner doesn't want to build it. They want the city to build it.
Right.
And one big trade to talk about is the Houston Rockets and Washington Wizards make a trade for a couple guards as John Wall and a lottery draft pick go to Houston, and Russell Westbrook is now a Wizard, which is just shocking to me. And now James Harden is saying, hey, I'll leave. That's cool too. I'll go to Philadelphia. That's fine.
I was going to say that's where I was reading today that he was wanting to go to.
Now, whether they allow him to go there or if Philadelphia can come up with some kind of a trade is yet to be seen. But that is where he said he would be just fine going, which will lead us into our first ever NBA team draft. And I think I want to do this for every sport going forward as a way of doing a season preview. And we both like to bet each other on goofy stuff and just goof off. So why not draft our teams? So the way this rule will work is we will go in alternating order. We will go conference by conference. We'll do the Eastern Conference this week. We'll do the Western Conference next week. I ended up with the first pick in the Eastern Conference. Robert over here will have the first pick in the Western Conference. And all it is all of the teams you have, we add up all of the wins that all of those teams have. Whoever has the most at the end wins. Simple enough.
Yep, I like it.
So let's start right with it. And I, again, have the first pick in the Eastern Conference. So I'm going to go with who I believe are the favorites, and that is the Milwaukee Bucks. And they fell short in the playoffs last year, but those games don't count here. They had the best defense, I think, in the NBA. Giannis, being the MVP, can he do that again? It's very possible. You see if Drew Holiday and DJ Augustine can kind of give him a little bit of help. He has issues. It was just him. And I know a lot of people are worried that he's going to jump ship. So hopefully the Bucks can find him some help, and maybe those two can do it.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing is they need to have some help in what's going on, and he's not going to be able to do it all by himself. So hopefully that is the right move for the Bucks this year. So.
All right, give me your first.
All right, I've got to do my number one, and I think you might have kind of laughed at me a little bit going this way, but I took the Brooklyn Nets. The only reason I took the Nets is I'm excited to see what Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant can do. I think that's going to be the biggest 1-2 punch in the Eastern Conference, and I think they can control everything. But I'm excited about seeing Steve Nash there too.
Yeah, it's not a bad pick. Absolutely. I mean, you look at the record last year, 35-37, but obviously they didn't have Irving or Durant, so it's going to be a big difference there. It's not terrible. My second pick are your defending Eastern Conference champions. That's the Miami Heat. They made the playoffs, the finals last year. Ken Butler, Dragic, I can never say Dragic's name right the first time, and Adebayo. I'm terrible with NBA names. I apologize to these guys, but can they be the next big, strong top three guys? Can they be a big three? It's possible. So I'm going to take the Heat with my second pick.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick there with that one. My next one is the Boston Celtics. I think they finished second in the conference last year, if I'm not mistaken. Had a decent record, 48-24. But I'm curious what happens because of the whole Kemba Walker thing, getting the shot and not being able to get playing until mid-January at the earliest. So that just means that Tatum and Brown and Smart's got to step it up for a while. But the big thing I'm excited about, when we talked about our NBA draft, the guys I went with were those two big centers. Mm-hmm. And I'm a guy that likes to watch the guys get physical in the paint. I just always have, always will. And I'm excited to see what Tristan Thompson and Daniel Thesis do here for the Celtics this year.
All right, I'm going to go with the 76ers with my third pick. Hello, Doc Rivers. A big signing for a team that I think really needs a big-time head coach. And now, if James Harden ends up there, maybe that's okay. They brought in a lot of veterans, Danny Green, Dwight Howard, Seth Curry, to try to get in. Joel Embiid is fantastic. Ben Simmons is a great facilitator, but a terrible shooter. Now you get some veterans around him. You get Doc Rivers there. Honestly, I think James Harden's actually a good fit there because he holds on to the ball forever. Ben Simmons is somebody that just wants to pass the ball, so that's fine. So I think everyone that they've put on this team has no problem, other than maybe Joel Embiid. But the rest of these guys have no problem with Harden putting up 50 shots a game.
Oh, yeah. I think you hit it on the head, though. I think the main one that's going to change things up is Doc Rivers. I mean, you look at his mindset as a player and all that. I think that is the main guy. I mean, he's going to make the difference coaching that ball team up. Hey, we got fans coming in from the studio and looking there. Some of our buddies that are security guards, Danny Howard coming in, so good to see you there, Dan. Now you're gonna have to watch the show later on the live stream. So,
I wonder if he showed up on your camera. No, you're angled too much.
Yeah, probably no need to change it the other way. We're still waiting for Chris to show up. Chris still hasn't showed up to visit us. He works up here, Mr. Munsterman.
What in the world? All right, I took the 76ers. Who's your third pick?
My third pick, and I took it as I think it's a new light, and I'm looking at it, and I'm going to take the Washington Wizards. I think Westbrook is going to make a change there, get the Wizards out of a losing season, and I think the main thing there is his dynamics can change things. They've got that great draft pick with Denny, and they also got a Gonzaga boy there, Rui Hashimura. So I think there's a good chance that that ball club does decent with Russell Westbrook there.
All right, my fourth pick is the Toronto Raptors, which I was actually surprised was still here. They went 53-19 last year. Yes, they lose Serge Ibaka. Yes, they lose Marc Gasol, but they did lock up Fred VanVleet, who's a fantastic ball player. To me, they're not a sexy team to pick, but they should contend for a top 4 seed, and that's going to be really big in our bet here.
All right. And I took in my fourth pick, I took the Indiana Pacers, and the main thing for this team, you got to stay healthy. And they struggled so much with health issues last year. Look for Sabonis and Brogdon to step up and take control of this ball club.
All right, so far I have the Bucks, Heat, 76ers, and Raptors. My fifth pick is the Atlanta Hawks. They took Trae Young and said, we're going to build a whole new team around you. You got Bogdan Bogdanovic, God, that name. Gallinari is fantastic. Rajon Rondo, who was shown to be very, very crucial with the Lakers. They had a good draft, I think. They only won 20 games last year, but I think they're going to be trying to fight for that 500 record.
Yeah, I agree with that, and it's going to be interesting. But my fifth, it's going to be, they're going to turn that around in the city of Chicago, and I'm going to take the Bulls. They cleared house in the front office, so look for them to take over. But they're very young, you're very, very young. The veterans on this team, Porter Jr. was 6 years young with 12, Levine with 5 years. Those are your veterans. Everybody else has only got 1 and 2 years. But I think the biggest part of this, Billy Donovan to the rescue. New coach there in Chicago. I think he turns things around there.
It's possible, and that's the one thing we're going to be saying about most of these teams. It's young. It's a young team, as we're in the bottom half of the Eastern Conference. My sixth pick, let's go with another young team, the Orlando Magic. They drafted Cole Anthony and OKK in this year's draft. They're going to hope Markelle Fultz turns things around. He was a former number 1 pick. We're down to the bottom of the barrel, I think, at this point for the Eastern Conference. Mm-hmm. So we're going to go with upside. So give me a bunch of the young players with the Magic.
Yeah, and that's exactly true. You and I were talking about they have to find something in this Eastern Conference, or it's going to be a basically 6-team race. I think it's going to be a 6-team race, and it's not as deep as what the Western side is at
but
all.
It never has. It's never deeper than it's been.
Right, but it's going to be rough, and for some of these bottom teams, and I think one team that is my 6th pick, and I think they've got a huge chance of turning this thing around, is the Charlotte Hornets. I mean, signing Gordon Hayward for a 4-year, $120 million contract, and then their 3rd pick, LaMelo Ball. I think Michael Jordan has picked up some players that could possibly make it to the playoffs. Possibly. Long shot, but it is possible.
I mean, who knows with the Eastern Conference? Let's be honest.
We'll probably see crying Jordan again, but I mean, it might be a little bit closer. They might be. There's a chance they make that 8 spot. I can see him making the 8 spot, but it's going to take a lot of work to get there.
Actually, one team that really struggled that I think could make the playoffs this year, and they are my 7th pick here, is the Detroit Pistons. Yes, they went 20-46, but they added so many veteran players. We've been talking about this young team trying to get the upbringing, and this young team and that young team. Detroit, I think, made a really good balance. You have Blake Griffin and Derrick Rose there. Old, very old. But now you add in Grant, Josh Jackson, Okafor, Plumlee, Delon Wright, some good role players there. They had 4 draft picks here, which, again, with not much of a preseason, they're not going to make as much of an impact this year. But if you tell me they could win 30 games, I wouldn't be surprised. It would be really close in the East to possibly make the playoffs. So I'm going to take the Pistons, which then
I can see them making a 7 or 8. That would
It's
be
possible.
really close.
Yeah.
I mean, the leadership with Griffin and Rose, like you said, I think those are huge points there.
So that leaves you with 2 teams: my New York Knicks or the Cleveland Cavaliers. It is up to you which team I get stuck with at the bottom of the Eastern Conference. I still hate the fact that I get an extra Eastern Conference team and you get an extra Western Conference team.
I was back and forth on this. I mean, it was a busy day with kids today, doing my Zooms and all that, and I was back and forth. And I was looking. I was like, do I take it? Do I not take it? And I ended up taking your Knicks.
I appreciate it. I didn't want to root for them.
I did. I think maybe the new spark of the coach, Tom Thibodeau, maybe that might be a little bit of a spark to get things going. Also, number 8 picking up their local New York boy, Obi Toppin. I can see him.
Hate that pick.
I think maybe it is going to be something that helps turn it around. But the one thing I was looking at, and I pulled up their roster when I did it, and just looking at the depth and the age, I didn't realize that they had 4 players that all played for Kentucky.
You know why,
at the
right?
same time.
You know why, right? Years ago, everyone wondered if the Kentucky Wildcats could beat the New York Knicks.
Yeah.
So then the Knicks went, well, maybe they have something here. So they just took them all.
Yeah, and that was the main thing I saw is that, 4 guys come off of that, and does that change the look with Obi coming in, another local boy, and a new fresh coach coming in there? Maybe your Knicks get 25 wins. I'm pushing it with 25 wins.
Right. Is that more than the Cleveland Cavaliers, who do get the number 5 pick and Isaac Okoro? They're, again, a very young team, but they got some nice veterans in Kevin Love, Andre Drummond, JaVale McGee. Yes, he comes from the Lakers. Can they turn things around a little bit? I don't believe in it, but they're stuck as my last team, so there you go. So Robert's 7 picks from the East are the Nets, Celtics, Wizards, Pacers, Bulls, Hornets, and Knicks. My 8 teams out of the East are the Bucks, Heat, 76ers, Raptors, Hawks, Magic, Pistons, and Cavaliers. We will do the Western Conference next week, and Robert will have the number 1 pick.
Do you want it right now? Do you want me to go ahead and give you the number 1 pick?
Let me guess.
No, you don't have to guess, because you know it's
San Antonio Spurs.
Yeah. Maybe when it was still the Admiral playing there,
Right.
and he was still fresh, maybe, yeah.
So I'm going to guess it's a Los Angeles team.
Maybe.
And whichever Los Angeles team you don't take, I'm sure I'm taking the other one. And then we will go on from there. So again, Robert will have the first pick with the Western Conference, and he will also have the extra team left over. And then in 2 weeks' time, we will do our awards predictions and playoff predictions, as the NBA will actually be starting that night in 2 weeks from today. It's crazy how fast that is coming,
That's
even
the
though
week
it is
before
late.
Christmas. That's the Tuesday before Christmas, right?
Yes.
So I probably need to wear my Christmas shirt and my ho-ho hat, huh?
Don't listen. You're already scared off everybody.
No.
This is the least amount of comments we've ever had on a show,
Because I think they're all watching the Tuesday Night Football.
It's probably true, but nobody wanted to watch you freak out. So nobody wants to watch you in your Christmas stuff.
You saw that Christmas shirt I wore at bowling last year.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you're going to run away the rest of our fans. All right, let's do the sports that you just don't get a lot of radio time, and have some fun. And let's talk bowling, and let's talk local. I think this happened a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. But it's something we kept forgetting to talk about. And you put it on here, and I'm glad you did, because I want to give him a shout out. But Andrew Love, only 15 years old, shoots his first 300 game. And I have seen this kid bowl several times, as Robert is watching the Cowboys score a touchdown. I have watched Andrew bowl a lot. I've bowled a couple summer leagues with him in the youth adult leagues. He is a fantastic bowler. And this should not have been his first. I have seen him throw the front 10 before, and obviously get super nervous. I mean, I get nervous when I get close. I'm 36 years old, and I have 5 of the dang things. But he throws a very smooth ball. I have to say that the youth in this valley, as far as bowling goes, are fantastic. I see Mary Post put things up about her granddaughter, and she is just killing it. I want to say is she 10?
Yeah,
8 or 10,
8 to 10,
somewhere in
like
there. But she's killing it there. Our high school team is fantastic.
Yeah.
I am still mad that there's a high school team now and there wasn't when I was in high school.
You know, that's one thing I tried to get years ago when I was down at Lancers and I was as the working the bowl desk and stuff. And this was still when Norm Klug was the Clarkson athletic director. And I went down there and I said, Norm, let's get this going. I said, there's lots of stuff going on in the Tri-Cities, in Ellensburg. There was a couple teams in Spokane. Let's get this going, get it going. I don't have time. We don't have time for bowling with everything else. Everything was still directed as it was all basketball, football, wrestling, and it's tough watching some of these things happen. As a buddy of mine up in Spokane is one of the main coaches, Corey Spurlock, is a youth coach up in Spokane, and seeing and watching some of these guys bowl up there, it's unbelievable. One of my past students actually bowls on the Lewiston high school team. He still goes to school at Clarkston, and he is one of the top 5 in Lewiston right now. Is what he's doing, Gossie. And I mean, I've seen where Gossie started years ago, and he doesn't bowl anything like his dad. You've watched his dad. I mean, he bowls nothing like his dad, but it's great to see some of these kids just take the strides to get there. I mean, I've been close. You talk about Andrew being nervous and stuff. You know, I've been on twice. You know, and I've had two bad ones. You know, one for my 287 a few years ago. I just got nervous, pitched the ball out on the 11th ball, doesn't come back, so a little struggling. And then you weren't there the night that I was 11 in a row. I should have paused. I should have taken that step back. It was a little rough, and to get up there, and I was rushing it, and I get up there and I throw the ball, and I just totally missed the mark.
There's a lot of nerves going up there with one more chance for a perfect game. So congratulations to, again, 15-year-old Andy Love, and a big shout out to Ryan Neerum and Randy Buttonoff. I guarantee you they took all of the credit for his 300. They're the coaches up there at Orchards. I know both of them personally, and they were trying to get me to coach. Yeah. And it was just during a rough time, and they're just awesome guys up there, and they've done a lot for bowling for the youth. I grew up with Ryan, and he helped me. He helped teach me how to bowl. So fantastic job there, and hopefully I need to get a hold of Ryan and have him give us more of this kind of news, because it's really fun to talk about. Yeah, exactly. But you had an interesting tidbit here.
Oh, this one made me sick when I saw this article today. Did you know that bowling is still not an Olympic event in the summer, which is stupid. You know, we look at all these places that these players that play. You know, the number one guy is from Australia. I mean, he plays quite well, and he's a heck of a bowler. But did you know that the Olympic Event Committee has announced that breakdancing will now be a event in the Summer Olympics?
I think at this point the only reason that bowling is not is because they don't want to try to figure out where the center is going to be. Like, obviously with the Olympics anymore, they want all of these arenas and fields to be very close to each other. And some of these countries just don't have those facilities, and they don't want to have to build them. Even though it's not that hard anymore, especially with the way what the PBA does.
Yeah, people are so closed-minded still on what bowling is. They all think it's for people that want to go have a few drinks and throw the ball down the lane. A lot of these folks, and even some of the people that we work with and have bowl with, have put in the time to become better. I mean, they go to the gym, they work out, the extra time walking, extra time doing and going down and shooting and on all that. I mean, bowling is a sport. Folks, let's get this out of our head and say, no, it's not just a drinking sport. It's actually a sport.
I mean, you can do both.
I mean,
but as far as being professional, absolutely. Yeah. How about some golf?
Hey, our buddy Joel Damon did pretty good this last week as the Mayacoba Golf Classic that happened at El Chameleon Golf Club in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. So basically Cancun. Let's get through the whole long name of the tournament. Yeah. And basically down in Cancun, Joel Damon here from Clarkston, you know, that's now living down in Arizona. He finished tied for 20th Looked really good. He was 12 under. All of his rounds were under. I think he was under 70 every one of his rounds. I don't think he had a one up close. I know he had a couple of 68s mixed in, but did really good. Nice $95,000 payday. But did you see him make a couple of putts? I know I shared that on Twitter.
I know Gino said it was like a Happy Gilmore putt, but his right hand was not low enough.
Yeah, I
Happy
think
Gilmore. He was still on the grip.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's a rule for actual golf that it has to stay on the grip. You can't touch the shaft part of the club. So he just brought it down low enough. But yes, he separated his hands a little bit. Again, go follow Gino on Twitter. He has some really funny stuff on there, just conversation that he and Joel have on the course. I watched a clip on there actually today. It was from this last weekend where he was actually on the Golf Channel. Joel was. They were watching his shot, and he takes a shot and he goes, "I'll get in," and it ends up 15 yards away from the green, and the guy goes, "Oh, he was being sarcastic." So they have fun. Those two have a lot of fun.
And he's been being called, the comedian of the tour. Finishing up his 5th year on the tour, and I mean, the sky's the limit for this kid. And excited to see where he goes. But the 23-year-old from Norway ended up winning that tournament at 20 under. Victor Hovland, and watching his swing was pretty. It makes mine look like, worse than Happy Gilmore. I mean, that's how smooth he looked. I mean,
well, you don't need any help looking.
I am smooth. I mean, I'm looking smooth in this black jersey.
Oh goodness! All right, Baltimore leading 27-17 with 3:40 to go in the fourth quarter. Again, that's why Robert is happy.
Yes, I am.
And one quick note before we hit this week in sports history. We talked about boxing last week with the Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. and Nate Robinson and I can't remember this guy's first name. Something Paul. Logan Paul's brother, who were in a fight. So anyways, that Paul won his fight. So Logan Paul, who is obviously the brother and a big YouTube star who started the whole YouTube boxing thing.
Mm-hmm.
He fought another YouTuber named KSI a couple times. And I think he fought somebody else. Logan Paul has now signed to fight in February of 2021. And the only reason it is making this show is because Logan Paul, a YouTuber who has lost multiple fights, I think he's 1-2 in his YouTube boxing career, has signed to fight Floyd Money Mayweather. I don't understand.
No.
I mean, does Floyd that hurt for money?
Well, I think Logan's just trying to put his name out there and get.
No, that's fine. I understand why Logan's doing it. Logan cannot lose in this situation. If he lasts 2 seconds, he's going to make millions of dollars.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Did Floyd already blow through his Conor McGregor money? Or his Manny Pacquiao money? Or his WrestleMania money?
I saw a video today of Manny Pacquiao in his last fight. Remember, he got knocked out. I forget who he got knocked out by. And it was just a beautiful shot right on the nose. It was like 8 years ago.
Floyd? No, Pacquiao.
Pacquiao. Yeah. I forget who it was. But, his last fight was like 8 years ago. Touchdown, Ravens, J.K. Dobbins goes in right at almost 2 minutes. So the Ravens are going to walk away with a win, going to 7-3. So.
Good. We can finish the show. This week in sports history, sir, we got a few minutes.
All right, a couple of them that I was really excited about to read, and one of them was a huge memory back December 2nd, 1985. Head coach Mike Ditka and defensive coordinator Buddy Ryan almost come to blows at halftime. And that was the only loss that the Chicago Bears had in the 1985 season, 38-24. Crazy to see that one. December 3rd, 1968, the MLB Rule Committee was looking to pump up the offense for MLB, so they decreased the strike zone and lowered the pitcher's mound to 10 inches from 15 inches. December 3rd, 1997, Golden State Warriors terminate Latrell Sprewell's 4-year contract of $32 million after he attacked P.J. Carlesimo. Do you remember that?
I do remember that, and I remember where he went after that.
Yeah,
he became a Nick.
I was going to say he was a Nick after that. Hey, December 4th, 1996, the Orlando Magic tied the then record of the fewest points scored in a game since the inception of the 24-second shot clock, losing to Cleveland 84-57. December 4th, 2017, our buddy Jimmy Madoff, funnest coach he ever liked. I mean, he always talked about him. Ben McAdoo. Ben McAdoo and Jerry Reese fired after McAdoo didn't start Eli Manning, ending the 210 consecutive game streaks, and your buddy Geno Smith got the start, if I remember right.
Ooh.
And McAdoo ended up being 15-15 as a head coach. And the funny thing about what I was reading, and now we wonder why Jacksonville's having all their problems with quarterbacks. Guess where he's coaching right now? Ben McAdoo is your quarterbacks coach in Jacksonville. You'll figure that one. December 5th, 1947.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I didn't know it until I did a little research on McAdoo. That's why. December 5th, 1947, Mr. Joe Louis beats Jersey Joe Walcott in 15 rounds for the heavyweight boxing title. Also in December 5th, 1978, free agent Pete Rose. This was before me really getting into baseball. I've only been like 4. He signs a 4-year, $32 million contract with the Philadelphia Phillies to become the highest paid baseball player at that time. 1992, the Giants signed two-time NL MVP Barry Bonds to a 6-year contract, and makes him the biggest contract.
And then years later, he became twice the size.
Yeah, exactly. Also on December 6, 2018, and I remember watching this game, Derrick Henry sets the franchise record of 238 yards, rushing 4 touchdowns in a 30-9 win over the Jaguars. And he also had the 99-yard TD run, tying Tony Dorsett for the longest run in history. And December, let's see, where are we at? December 7th, Lou Gehrig, 36, selected to the Hall of Fame. And let's see, December 8th, 1940, National Football Championship. The Chicago Bears crushed the Washington Redskins 73-0, the most one-sided victory in NFL history. That was the first NFL title game on national radio.
I'm sure people turned it off pretty quick. All right. It is now time to stump Randy. You are, what is it, 2-0 now?
I'm 2-0 against you.
2-0.
Yep.
And you proclaimed to me before the show that you were going to be 3-0 because you continue to just be mean and ask really hard questions.
No, come on, I'm not like that.
Let's see.
I got away from baseball this time. So the first 2 were baseball. So I'm not doing a baseball question. Okay. We're actually going, since it is starting up, we're going to the round ball. So we're going back to the question. Orlando Magic tied the then record of the fewest points with the inception of the 24-second clock. Who owns the current record for the fewest points in a game?
Are we talking still shot clock?
Shot clock. It's in the shot clock era. So we're talking, what is it? Well, let's go back. 19. When did I say that? I forget the year that I wrote it down here. 96.
I want to know. I want to say I know this.
I was shocked.
Oh, then I might not know it. I'm going to say the Detroit Pistons. They were really bad for a while, and they weren't putting up a lot of points.
Well, the one that gets me is it was tied or broke now since this one happened 12 times. So it's changed, been either tied or changed 12 times. So it is actually the Chicago Bulls. The Miami Heat beat the Bulls 82-49 back on April 10th, 1999. The Bulls only scored 8 points in the first quarter, 15 in the second, 10 in the third, and 16 in the fourth. So scoring 49 points. Do you know who the high point getter was for that game, maybe?
In 99?
Yeah.
No.
He was the only Hungarian basketball player that ever played in the NBA right now. And that's to this date still. He's the only Hungarian-born player to do that. And that's Cornell David. He scored 13 points off the bench, and he played 35 and a half minutes. That is your Stump Randy segment.
It worked really good. I just looked, and I found a site that had the top 11, and Detroit Pistons weren't even on there. So I was completely wrong, and you stumped me again. You have 30 seconds to give me one game to watch.
I think we there's two. I'm going to do two.
One.
All right, Army Navy. Army Navy.
I agree. And as far as the NFL goes, I'm saying Pittsburgh and Buffalo, Sunday Night Football, 11-1 versus 9-3 for the chance to be number 3 on my power rankings next week.
7-5, Baltimore, Cleveland, 9-3. I gotta go Homer. I'd like to go Indianapolis, Las Vegas.
Monday Night
but
Football.
Monday
All
Night
right.
Football.
That is going to do it for us. We will be back next week with more football talk, the Western Conference picks for the NBA. We'll talk more local basketball. We'll see if LC gets some more games in. Again, they're going to throw this at us randomly, and we're going to have some fun with it. We got to see Baltimore win while Robert was on the air. If you have not yet, we would very much appreciate it if you give us a follow on R&R Sports Report on Facebook and subscribe to us on R&R Sports Report on YouTube. It would help us reach out to more people. But if you've been listening to us this long, or if you've listened to any of our first 10 shows now, we thank you so very, very much. But for Robert, I'm Randy, and we are out.